Welcome back to Jersey Matters. Now, we know the New Jersey Teachers Union doesn't think it's safe to go back into the classroom this fall, and we know that most parents are upset about that. But how do the kids feel? For that, we interview Kaben Clauson, CEO and co-founder of TruePublic. Let's start with what TruePublic is.
Yeah, TruePublic is a mobile opinion platform where people all across America, mostly focused on young people, are sharing their opinions on their health, their dating life, how they're spending their time. And really, as coronavirus has taken over the conversation, so much of the research we've done has been around how coronavirus is fundamentally changing their lives and even their education lives.
It's fascinating because it seems to me that there's this argument around and above kids. Around and above the youth. They're talking about what would be best for the youth, talking about how staying at home causes more problems than it does in going to school, without any real conversations with the kids themselves. What are they saying?
Well, right off the bat, what we're seeing is e-learning has some huge challenges. 7 in 10 young Americans are saying they're actually learning worse at home than they were at school. And I think a big point of that is the lack of help. You know, and these parents, bless their hearts, they're so busy. They're trying to help their kids now in a totally new environment. But what we're seeing is 40% of students are saying their parents are unable at all to help them on their schoolwork. And most of them are saying they can only help me a little bit. So what we're seeing is there's a teacher supervision that's really lacking. And frankly, even the ability to ask a fellow student really easily how to help for some help on some work, that's creating huge challenges. So 7 in 10 are saying they're learning worse. Now, we're going to be tracking this number because one of the things is, as New Jersey and places all across the country are getting into e-learning for the first time, for many of these states, they're really going to have to learn some new best practices to make this system work even better for these students.
Is there a lack of knowledge on how to best teach with remote learning?
You bring up a great point. I think one of the huge challenges is kids are comparing e-learning systems to video game systems, social media systems. These things are way more exciting, way more colorful, way more interesting to them. And it does feel a little old-fashioned and old world. Also, when someone's learning at home, a lot of these young people know technology way better than their parents, certainly much better than their grandparents. And that creates a weird sensation where they're understanding how to operate the system better than the people supervising them, which I think is creating a lot of distraction, frankly. We're seeing a lot of, the biggest challenge for e-learning with young people is distraction. It was already distracting enough. Technology is distracting all of us. But what we're seeing is when you're at home and there's no one observing you, and you know this technology super well and you're able to manipulate it how you'd like, it's really easy to let distractions, whether it's other websites, your smartphone, your tablet, take over and take you away from the classroom. And that is something teachers are going to have to figure out, because how do you keep someone accountable when they're at home?
If what's happening on the screen isn't interesting enough for the person, they're going to be distracted. And what I can't believe is, and I've watched this online learning, why they haven't figured that out. Why hasn't someone moved into the space to teach them how to be interactive, to do polling like you do, to get answers from the class in questions, to allow many people to speak at the same time? That's all possible in remote learning. That's all possible online, but it doesn't seem to be being used.
Here's what I'm thinking is going to happen. And that's a great point. I think those technologies are coming. I think what's happened is COVID is bringing those in faster. There's business people all across the country that have to be waking up to the fact that, wow, there's a real opportunity here. We don't know how long this could last. And the question is for these school districts is, are they willing to invest the money? Because if they're going to come back to normal school, let's say next year, well, it's a big risk to put a lot of time and resources into these e-learning outcomes. The problem with that is these young kids, as you know, and you have them, they don't get that time back. If you're a senior in high school, that's the semester you have. You're preparing for college. If you're in college, and I think the college kids are having it even worse, frankly, because the college kids are paying massive tuition versus the high school kids. And we're seeing with our data and the comments on TruePublic that the college students are the ones who are the most aggrieved by this, because they're feeling like we're paying a lot of money, we're not learning as well, and ultimately this could be harming my ability to get a job in the future or have a really successful graduation. So that's a, you know, an even bigger concern. I think the technologies will come. The better technologies will come. The question is, how quickly can they come? You can't build these things overnight. And
in the meantime, some kids are getting left behind no matter what.
Right.
Because technology isn't fast enough for them, and it might be too late for them as well. The 7 of the 10 that you talked about is the headline. That's the best statistic you have. That's the most interesting statistic you have. But underneath that, I'm certain you've also found some things that the kids are complaining about that I may not even not know what to ask. So just tell me.
Yeah, a great one is the 3 in 10 young Americans who are actually fighting with their parents more. You know, a lot of families have conflict. That's pretty normal. But 3 in 10 are saying that e-learning, since it began, has been causing conflict in the home and been causing strain amongst parents and young people. And a lot of that is around a mismatch in expectations. What we're seeing is a lot of young Americans are getting their homework done very quickly. When you're in an e-learning scenario, you can knock it out quite quickly. And the parents are saying, well, wait a second. And we have parents on TruePublic as well who've also chimed in, and they're saying, my kid was done with their work right away. That seems strange and that seems off, and that's causing conflict. Only 12% of young Americans say their parents are a big help on their at-home schoolwork.
What's the bottom line? Do kids want to go back to school if they have this choice?
It's split, because what we're seeing is on one hand, a lot of kids like to cut class, if we're being frank here, and being out of school is kind of nice. On the other sense, they're missing on their academic freedom, and frankly, they're missing their friends. We see there's 2 stories here. About half want to go back, about half want to stay home, but for different reasons. Some want to stay home because of the global health crisis. Some want to stay home because, frankly, it's a little easier to do their work at home and they can kind of cut class a little easier. But overall, the biggest reason they want to go back is quite simply the social aspect. They miss their friends, they miss the ability to see them, and that's causing a lot of consternation and stress.
Well, that's fascinating. Thank you so much for spending the time to talk to us. Those numbers are important. That was Kaben Clauson, CEO of TruePublic. Now, one alternative for parents is something called Learning Pods. We'll show you what that's all about when Jersey Matters comes right back.